It says press. Is this gonna work? That doesn't even work. Well, you may have to, you have to speak. I guess you'll have to use. How about these? I'm just saying if you have to speak and record, it works. I don't know.
Grab one of those if I need to.
Yeah, or you can use.
Okay, thank you.
We can hear you.
Right.
The audio.
The virtual, okay, that's good.
So.
Well, we got a quorum. I think we can go ahead and get started. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's 6:32. I'd like to call to order the January 27, 2026 Chamblee Downtown Development Authority meeting. We'll do a quick roll call here. Brian Ray, Jonathan Smith, Michael Escobar, Seth Watson, Jenna Dunham, John Mesa. All right. Let's go ahead and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alrighty then. Just a quick announcement up front. As you can see, I'm chairing the meeting tonight, even though Brian Ray is here. Brian has stepped down as chairman of the DDA, but he will still stay on board. I just want to say thank you for your leadership this last year. It's been a very busy year, and I appreciate your expertise, your time, and your continued passion for making downtown Chamblee a great place to live and play and work. So,
Second.
thank you. I will act as chair for the next 2 months, and then we will have officer meeting or elections in March. So, and with that, we will go down to item 2, approval of minutes. Has everyone had a chance? And if I can, I'd just like to lump all 3 of these together. Has everybody had a chance to read the regular meeting minutes from December 16th, the special called meeting minutes from December 19th, and the special called meeting from January 13th? The first 2 were 2025. The last one was 2026. Any discussion on that?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda items the minutes as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. Thank you. The chair's report. All the things that I thought I might discuss, they're actually on the agenda, so we will just deal with them as they come up. Next item, financial report. Jonathan.
Yeah, so as is typical, the financial report we got is through the end of December. I'll give you the updated numbers compared to what you saw that was circulated. Debt service account, $43,000, operating account, $49,000, Those numbers are now, after payment of our debt service, 31K and some other expenses, and 22K. So as everyone recognizes, and we've been talking about for several months now, we are thin and asking the city for a little assistance, which we'll talk about later on in the meeting. We have moved the Pierce assets to other assets, the value, so that's 12.5 million number that you see is changed from the November report and gone up. And then you can see our bank loan number 2 for the Pierce property at 4.5 million down in liabilities. So that is also different since the November report. Any other questions or comments on the financials that were circulated?
All right, seeing no questions, do we have to submit that? Is that an action item or just prove that? Okay. Thanks, Jonathan. Old business, number 5. First up, the City Center MOU. There's some concern, Dan McCrae's here, our counsel tonight to discuss this with us, but there's some concern about some inconsistencies with the text between the initial MOU and PSA and the current lease agreement. And some folks have raised some red flags. So Dan, I'll let you explain what the concerns are and take your recommendations.
Thank you. And you actually mentioned a few things that it's important for people to realize. This is not a simple transaction, and this part of it is not simple. So we have a hierarchy of documents here. We have a heavily negotiated purchase and sale agreement, which contains provisions related to the MOU. We have an MOU that was prepared based on that, and which you'd expect to be definitive because it was later, although it defers specifically to the PSA with the developer in certain places. And then we have the bond documents themselves for the multifamily portion, which have been prepared and distributed twice now, and we still will need to prepare the retail based on them. Most important for what we're talking about in the bond documents is the lease. The lease contains the provisions that really govern the deal going forward. The DDA in the past has been well protected by its documents. We were talking earlier, we had one project that came close to going into bankruptcy, but the DDA came out of that pretty well. We were well protected. In this particular case, we have a negotiated deal for a project that's very important to the city, so we're willing to go further, but not too far, with what we're agreeing to, and we've already made a number of concessions from what we consider to be standard provisions for the DDA. We are now down to the short strokes, particularly on the lease. And they tend to revolve around one thing, which is this. To us, a project after the bond closing is a corporate citizen of the community. We care what they do. We care what the project looks like. We care who owns it. We care how responsive they are. We care about them submitting their annual reports, all of those things that you've seen over and over again. To a developer that's not a build and hold developer, and we've had some of those, a project is a commodity. They build it, they lease it up, they sell it, they go do another project. So to them, the transferability of the project is important, and they always say, and this one's saying as well, that it relates to the financing. So there you are. This is a long-winded way of saying that most of the remaining discussion, which we hope to wrap up tomorrow, we've had some back and forth today, and we'll have some more live discussions tomorrow, which is always helpful. But hopefully we'll be able to wrap up everything tomorrow. But the discussions will revolve around the transferability provisions, whether we have a right to determine, there's a requirement that a transferee be solvent, which I don't think is too much to ask. But we'd also like to be able to verify the solvency instead of just having somebody say, hey, I'm solvent. And there are things where, for example, in several places, the developer asked for and we gave specific language having to do with the assumption, that an assumption is okay if it contains these words in quotes. There's another place where that wasn't done, so we said this document needs to be in form and substance satisfactory to the DDA, and they don't like that. I would expect in the normal commercial world that those things wouldn't necessarily cause any problem, but you never know. That's why you have them. There is one particular provision, though, that is more than just lawyers arguing over words. This has to do with environmental liability. And the Developer Council has made the point that we will have owned these properties for a while before they acquire them, and we enter into the bond transaction. And so they don't want to do what we've required every prior lessee to do, which is to assume the environmental responsibility both while they are the lessee and also for prior environmental releases. So you can make a sensible argument. It's not outrageous to say that we don't want to indemnify for things that may have happened while the DDA was holding title. But the rule is, and I'm not an environmental lawyer, I'm going to tell you what I was told, is that while you're holding title, you're responsible for what you do and for what anybody ever did in the past. When you dispose of that title, you keep being responsible for what you do yourself, but you're not responsible anymore for what was done in the past. That in fact came up in our closing on the contract revenue bond deal with the bank recently, where the bank did not insist on us, that liability sticking with us if the property were sold at first, but they looped back and then later asked for that. So none of these remaining points are insignificant. That's why they're remaining points. We've already dealt with the easy ones. I think, though, that most of them are a matter of parsing the words with the other lawyer. For example, they make the point that these exempt assignments weren't listed. Well, I didn't recognize the language. Maybe the language is there. But if they want to pursue that, then we'll say, okay, we'll import the exact language, not the stuff about somebody that might in some way remotely partially control somebody else. Again, all this is not likely to be an issue, but we do have the immediate situation, which will come up tomorrow, about whether we retain the environmental indemnification provision, which they strongly object to. And again, they're not unreasonable for doing that. What's good for them is not good for us and vice versa there. But there's going to have to be a resolution of it. And it all goes back to this. I mean, this was not overlooked at the beginning. This was thoroughly discussed among the DDA's working group as to what this meant and whether we could compromise on it. And the decision was made, well, let's not compromise and see what happens. But if, in fact, there's not any contamination, if there weren't any releases, then there's not a problem. But I don't know that. There's been studies. Again, we were not, thankfully, involved in the real estate portion of this. We had some bit of involvement with the PSA, but Seifert is outside the real estate part of this, so I don't know exactly what was discovered and discussed and dismissed at the beginning or not. We've reached out to the DDA's real estate lawyer about this. But to me, that's the last thing, and it's the sort of thing where it's our job to look out for the DDA, and I think we've frankly done a real good job of that. But if the business decision is made to accept that, then I can't say that's a wrong decision. If I think somebody's making a mistake, I'll tell you that, but I can't say that's wrong. It's a business decision. So I'd like to I apologize for just giving this to you on the spot and asking for your response on the spot, but you don't have to give it on the spot. That's the issue. If the board would like to think about it tonight and have the vice chair, acting chair come and get back to us tomorrow in time for us to deal with the developer working group tomorrow afternoon, that would be great. But I do need some guidance on that from the board.
Before anybody responds, I just wanted to ask everybody to speak into the mic. We got a text from our live stream person that it's hard to hear some people.
So just to clarify the issue, it's whether we waive our indemnity, the indemnity that they were going to give us for the time period that we owned the property, but not.
It's the prior period that they want us to waive.
Okay.
protection.
Okay, but we still have the indemnity from the sale.
I can read you the language that they were asking for. Let me do that. So they wanted to read, the indemnities extend to any actual or alleged violation of or noncompliance with any environmental laws and the release of hazardous materials at, under, or from the leased land, but only for any such violation relating to any period after the sale of the leased land by the issuer to the company. So what they're saying is, we retain, they don't indemnify us. This isn't saying who's liable for what, and we couldn't agree to that anyway. That's for the EPA to decide. But this says insofar as asking them for indemnification, we could only ask for environmental matters after we sold the property to them. Everything before that, there's no indemnification from them.
Right, okay, I understand now.
Anybody else have any thoughts on that?
Just to recap, we already completed a phase 2, and the results of that show something that maybe is concerning them? Or
No, I
there
think
was no
we
concern?
have a clean bill of health, is my understanding.
Right. So what's the risk of us accepting their proposal if we already know that the site's clean?
I really can't hear that.
I would say it's not that the site is clean, it's that all of the environmental review and testing to date has not shown particularly significant issues, if you understand the distinction. They haven't found anything particularly concerning other than the underground storage tanks that were removed. That have been dealt with. So all of the environmental reports that I have seen have indicated only minor environmental issues beyond the underground storage tanks. That nothing had been flagged, that when Greystar's environmental review went through, nothing really came up on their phase 2 for the site. So by all measures, we have no indications that there is significant environmental issues with the site. And this property is really at the top of the watershed, so it's not in a situation where you've got much in the way of off-site flowing through it. There's just not much uphill of this site. So in general, my understanding is the site is relatively clean for a industrial site.
And you're saying that, in your opinion, this is kind of the last major issue to get that lease document across the finish line?
I can't promise that other things might swell up in importance, but to me, this is the big remaining issue.
Right, and would we need to make a motion to approve your action going forward, or can we authorize Chair to have that discussion with you?
I would say this, we have a resolution already authorizing the chair in consultation with council to finalize the documents. The position of chair is now vacant. We have a vice chair acting as the CEO. So if it's the consensus of the board, you can either adopt a new resolution or leave that resolution in place. But either way, we would want, I guess, the VP acting chair to tell us tomorrow what the sentiment of the board is about doing that. Again, we're an open meeting, so it wouldn't be great to have a resolution giving away our negotiating position. So
That's what I was saying, yeah.
So my position on this, since this is a relatively new item that we're kind of being exposed to, and as the council rep, I would definitely want to confer with people on our staff, including the city manager, who would give me some input onto it, because I'm, like everybody else, this is kind of new stuff right here. This kind of came out of the,
and one of the
and it sounds like it needs to be
say-
somewhat, maybe possibility of it being addressed by tomorrow. It would help things.
I agree, and one of the things I tell people is never make a decision under time pressure if you don't have to.
Right.
So what we're trying to do is to get the bonds validated by the end of February, but that's an arbitrary deadline as far as I'm concerned. If you need more time, take more time, and if it takes more time, it takes more time.
What other resources that we would have, but I would definitely want to at least ask the question in official capacity to our city manager.
It is an arbitrary deadline, but it is also the deadline established by, I think, the amendment number 4 that sets a February 28th deadline for the approval or for the approval of the MOU or the.
That's correct, and it's in the MOU too, but there's no business significance that I know of to that date.
So it would simply be that we would need to get Graystar's agreement to push that out before we could say we can do that.
Perhaps it would be a good idea to have a resolution authorizing the acting chair to agree to an extension of that February 28 date if necessary, if it looks like we're not going to be able to get past this in time to validate by the end of February. Or you can wait and see what happens.
Do we have a meeting, another DDA meeting before that deadline date?
We have a special call meeting, I believe, February 3rd.
Well, I was going to ask for clarification on that myself because I wanted to see what that date was in tying into this. We don't have anything scheduled. I just saw an email about that, so I did want clarification on that timing as well.
The regular, let me rephrase my question, is the regular called DDA meeting before that deadline?
It's February 24th.
Yes, the DDA's meeting it's in order to, there's a whole legal process in order to get the bond documents validated with the courts. And so to stay on that schedule, we would need to approve the bond documents at a special called meeting, tentatively identified for February 3rd.
And you know that kind of works. If we're actually, in effect, putting off until that meeting approving this particular change, because it'll be one way or the other in the lease, and you could either say yes to it or no to it at the meeting. If that gives us more time if you need it.
And that would authorize the vice chair to give him the authorization to agree to this extension if need be.
Extension if necessary. Mhm.
Got it. I just didn't know if we had to do it tonight. It sounds like, so we can do a lot of things on the 3rd if necessary.
Yes.
On the indemnification, is there a dollar amount being discussed, like indemnified up to a certain amount, or there's no dollar put to this, just blanket indemnification?
This is, I'm going to get up on my soapbox and preach a little bit. No, there's not a dollar amount, and the sad and sorry thing about environmental liabilities, and this is the reason the bank was pushing back on it, and I did some research, and this has actually happened, where you sell a property, and then you, the seller, after the sale, get stuck with remediation, which costs more than you got for the property. So they don't have a cap on the indemnification, and I wouldn't want to give them one.
Well, it seems like I feel fairly confident that the work that's been done so far, including up to through the phase 2, that everything's been identified as a possible issue. But I still appreciate our council wanting to protect us just in case there is something else that we don't know about. Anybody, any other thoughts?
I mean, simply, what's the process to find out if there are more problems to protect ourselves? Retesting?
Well, I don't think we want to, I think at this point, we've gotten, we know there were tanks there, we had them removed. There was
I
some-
would say the only way that it will likely come up is if something is found during construction, or if somebody downslope of us comes up with a hot spot with a contamination issue that potentially could be traced to our property. But again, are those possible?
And at that point, the property's sold, right?
But that's what this is about. It's about, even if we've sold it, the fact that we've owned it means that
Right.
we own that liability.
I don't think there's any way you're going to get 100%, like blanket coverage. I mean, like there's always going to be some risk. We've had some, and I think it'll never go away 100%, unless,
What we have
but
done.
they're not going to sign it.
Excuse me for interrupting, but what we've done in the past, and yes, I agree, there's always some risk, but what we've done in the past, when we have known environmental conditions, is we put the project into a brownfield. We've done that a number of times, and the DDA is a party to the corrective action plan, and that protects us. We go on, if the remediation provided for in the plan is done, but this doesn't even look like a brownfield. I mean, I agree with Brian about that, based on what I know, which is far less than everything. But it's just, one of those things, if something does come up, whose problem is it?
And I would point out, one of the things, as you were talking about, one of the distinctions in this project as opposed to the other projects, none of the other DDA properties or none of the incentive projects that we have done to date involve properties that the DDA owned prior to that lease exchange. So this is the only situation that could potentially arise where the DDA was actually in the title chain prior to the lease agreement that is a part of the incentive. And so on that level, the indemnification for prior acts is reasonable because the DDA never really owned the property other than as a part of the incentive structure. In this one, the DDA has solid ownership in that title even before that lease takes place.
I think my thought, and this is just my 2 cents, if we've done our due diligence, we've done EPA 1 and 2, once we've sold this property, it seems like we've done all we can. It's time for them to assume responsibility. That's my thought on it. If there's the only other way is us to do the same thing we've already done, pay for it a second time just to double check, I think that's overkill. If we've done it, and I think it now becomes their responsibility once they've purchased this property. And the argument is they're just saying the period of time in which we owned it, if something comes up, it can be attributed to our period of time when it was owned by DDA.
I would look at it, and again, I didn't hear all of that, but I would look at it this way. The decision, who's going to make the business decision to take the risk? We've been asked to make the decision. If we say, and take the risk. If we say no, then they've got to make the decision. And their knowledge about the environmental condition is as good as ours.
Right. But, I mean, again, this, in theory, this is one of the outs that they would have to walk away from the project if it gets to that point that they just will not accept that liability.
So it's another valid point, and it's also a valid point that it's not, as I said, I wouldn't say reasonable, I'd say not outrageous for them to ask us to give up that indemnification. So again, it comes back to this. It's honestly not a legal matter. It's a business decision. It's my job to apprise you of the risk. And the board members have to make the decision with full knowledge and clear eyes about either we're going to do this or we're not going to do it. But you should never go into it, with your eyes shut.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the risk of us not going with what they did is that they cancel the contract, and that's an out for them in that regard. Is that level of?
I think that's correct. I mean, there's the MOU provides for the bond validation to occur by 2/28, and that alone, that's an easy out for them.
I think personally, we should authorize the vice chair to make that decision. And in my opinion, we should do it quickly. Every day that goes by that this contract exists, we're spending money. And that's one of the issues at hand right now. There are a lot of things that are outside of our control, and that's one of the reasons that our balance sheet is where it is. If we continue to extend these deadlines for issues like this,
This is a commercially reasonable ask, in my opinion, whether we push back or not. But it's a decision that needs to be made quickly, in my opinion.
I think I can make my decision by the time for the meeting tomorrow. I just kind of want to check with some folks in the meantime. For me, I don't know, do we need to do something special? So, I mean, obviously, we're not going to meet tomorrow, but there's a provision in our existing documents where the vice chair can act tomorrow if he gets word from one of like me, that he can move forward, or does he?
That's correct.
Okay, that's what I thought I understood.
Well, so we don't, I guess, show our hand to some degree, but some of you have already expressed, I kind of see where you stand on this issue. How about, if you can, in the next 24 hours, send me your thoughts on which way you would like to go with this, and we will keep everybody on a group email so that everybody knows what everybody else is feeling. And then once we have, I guess, a majority, that's what we'll go with, whether we want to accept.
That's a good way to handle it. Let me remind the board that under the Open Meetings Act, an email is not a meeting, an email is not a vote, but they are subject to open records unless there's an exemption.
Okay.
This item does not require a vote. It's just,
As far as I'm concerned, y'all just tell me what you want to do.
got it.
Okay. Well, then let's do that. The
Sorry,
meeting.
just one more question. Has the buyer highlighted any specific reasons why, after we've spent all this money on the Phase 2 and they saw the report, have they identified any specific reasons why they are not willing to accept this? Is it just a generic, we don't want to do it, or they have specific reasons?
Do they have specific reasons on why they are doing this?
Well, you read the email. I mean, it's like, we're entitled to this.
Right.
My impression is that they simply think that it is unreasonable for us to expect them to indemnify ourselves for things that might have happened during our ownership or once we've owned the property. I mean, to some extent, they're pointing out that it's your property. Why are you asking us to indemnify you for something that arises from your property? You know, and so I think that's sort of their point.
Well, the meeting tomorrow is at 11, was it? We had talked about, Dan, that we were going to have a Zoom meeting, I think, with.
It's not, somebody who sends out an invitation without coordinating with people should be totally surprised when everybody says, yes, I can make it. But as a result of that, it's not at 11. There'll be a call at 3 p.m. It's not a Zoom meeting.
Okay.
At 3 p.m. So we have most of the day tomorrow to.
Okay. Well, how about I get a response from all of you by 2 o'clock tomorrow? If you can send me an email and your feelings on how we should proceed with this, and then I will share that with Dan at the call.
And then I just wanted to clarify the timing, assuming the call, we get the input and the call moves forward tomorrow and everything. So it sounds like the plan is still to potentially hold a special call meeting on February 3rd to approve the bond documents. Is that correct?
Let's be optimists and say yes.
Okay. So we haven't pulled the DDA yet on their availability. So I'll send out an email just to get that from you all, but it sounds like that is the tentative plan.
Very good. Thank you, Dan. It is complicated. All right, continuing on with old business, the 2026 budget, which we pushed back from December to now regarding financial issues. I think maybe we should approve this. This is an action item to approve the budget, correct?
Yes.
Yes, it was deferred from last month. Typically, it's done December of every year, but it was deferred.
Since part of the budget includes the help from the city on a loan, should we maybe do the intergovernmental agreement portion of new business first?
I believe that may be a question for our legal team on the order of that.
Yeah, I didn't know, since we're taking that in consideration with the budget, we're including that money from that loan, should we skip down and address that first before we accept the budget?
I mean, I think we could accept the budget assuming that the IGA is approved.
Okay.
And I don't think we need a motion to reorder the agenda, do we? I mean, we could just, if you think it would be better, we can just handle it in that order.
Yeah,
I don't think we
I
need-
think I would feel a little more comfortable knowing that that's a done deal. It's just, does anybody have any thoughts on that? All right, well, let's, if we can, skip down to new business, the intergovernmental agreement with the city of Chamblee. As you know, this was approved by council a couple weeks ago, but this is an action item that we have to agree to. They will be loaning us $300,000, beginning, I think, February 1st. We will get $50,000 a month. And we want to thank mayor and council for making this happen and helping us out. We appreciate it. Any discussion about this?
This was an item that was submitted by the city to us for our approval, correct?
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to get that on there. That's what my assumption was, but I just wanted to make sure.
And it is also the subject of a motion, an approved motion from the December meeting where the board authorized the chair to negotiate this loan agreement.
Right.
So it's not like this is a new topic.
Right.
So can I get a motion to approve the intergovernmental agreement with the city for a loan not to exceed $300,000?
Do we need to make this motion, or?
This is an action item, isn't it?
Yes, that's correct. And I would say, with your motion, if you are going to make it with the intergovernmental agreement as presented. 'Cause
Okay.
you all have a copy of it, and it was also attached to the agenda.
Okay.
So have we had council look at this? No. You haven't seen it? I don't know that we have much choice.
Well, I think we need some alternate income now. I've read through it. I'm no attorney, but I don't see any concerns about it. Seems pretty straightforward. It's a one-year loan, 5% interest, I believe. I'm
6%.
6%. And I think we should be able to pay it off, provided everything goes through with the city center project. It won't take a year, but we do need a lifeline right now. So I don't think we can wait, because we just finished paying all of our bills for this month, but I don't know that we were going to be able to make all of our bills for next month. So I don't know if we can but spend any more time. I would assume the city has put together a fair agreement here, and I don't know that.
Do we need to defer the first payment, though? Like, if we're going to borrow 300, then immediately pay back 50,000 in the first month?
No, the repayment, I believe, is 1
Repayment
year
should be
or
lump
the
sum.
date that the property is sold.
Yeah.
I can clarify that if you need some detail. The payment would not be due from the DDA back to the city until after either the close of the purchase and sale of the property and you reimburse, or a year after the first payment is made. Yeah.
Any more discussion? All right, with that, I'll take a motion to approve the IGA as presented.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the IGA as presented.
A second? Can I get a second from anybody?
Second.
All those in favor? And that passes unanimously. All right, now let's circle back to the budget. We need to approve the budget, the 2026 budget. Any discussion on that?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the 2025
2026?
2026 budget as submitted.
Second?
Second?
All those in favor? That passes unanimously. All right, back down to new business, the 2025 annual report, Peachtree Station. I know a couple of you had some questions about that. I don't know, Dan or Danny, do you want to talk a little bit about our, this year, the submittal for this year?
Sure, let me.
Does the mic, this one work for you? Is that not working?
I don't think this one
Oh, okay.
was working. Does
Yeah,
everyone
you-
hear me? Okay.
Yeah, we got you there, thank you.
So the company submitted their 2025 annual report, which we reviewed and looks acceptable, assuming that the valuation that they submitted, that they proposed for the property is acceptable to the DDA. The valuation report they submitted has the valuation of the property remaining the same for 2025 as for 2024 at $47,500,000. So it's kind of it's a question as to whether that valuation is acceptable, and if so, the calculations they submitted with the annual report would be accurate. So it kind of just if the DDA accepts the value of the report is kind of the main question here. And the report they provided is kind of it's based on comparable properties as was done in previous years and as is required by the MOU. So that's kind of where they came up with the basis of their value for this year, for 2025.
Very good. Any questions on that?
What's the comparison to the last time they valued the property?
It's the same.
Exact same? So
Yeah.
Flat? And what was the last time? A year ago?
I think it's been flat for 3 years.
2023, I believe, was $46,500,000, and then went up $1 million for 2024, and they're proposing to keep it the same for 2025 at 47.5.
Other questions, discussions? All right, can I get a motion to approve the Peachtree Station 2025 annual report?
Motion to approve the Peachtree Station 2025 annual report.
Can I get a second? Get a motion and a second. All those in favor? It passes unanimously. Thank you. And finally, on new business, property updates. This concerns the Pierce property, both parcels, and then also the parcel we own over by Vintage Pizza, the white building there. Ashley, I'll let you, since you've been kind of on the forefront of what's going on with these properties, if you could share with the rest of the group what's been happening and what you've been doing about it.
Yes, thank you. So I'll start with the Pierce properties, which is what is displayed in front of you. So essentially, the city's code enforcement did go out there soon after the DDA purchased that property and found a lot of code violations. And then also PD had noticed that they witnessed or heard reports of potential trespassing on the site. So we did inquire with the attorney that was working on the contract about options to get it, or what to get that property secured, or if there are any options for that. But it's been kind of slow to response, so because of the public safety need, the city is starting to address that. So these photos are from a site visit that myself, code enforcement, facilities, and public works went last Thursday. So basically on the residential property, all of the doors are unlocked and that back garage is unsecured. And then on the commercial property, all of those structures are unsecured, and the garage door bay was open and was accessible to the front part of the commercial property. So staff is working on getting pricing to secure everything that they haven't done. So far, all that they have done is purchase supplies to pull down and secure the garage door on the commercial property, and that was $161.86. But they are getting pricing to options to secure everything else, and then work with a locksmith to get things done, because it's my understanding we don't have any keys for either of those properties. And we also noticed upon the site visit that the residential property had all utilities on and the commercial property had water on. So we haven't got any information from the seller about that, so we are working with what we can to kind of get those shut off as well, so that's in progress. But staff, because of the public safety issue, is moving on securing that as much as possible. I don't have updated prices on what that will look like yet, but it is an increasing public safety issue that needs to be addressed as soon as possible.
Especially with the cold weather, people looking for shelter. The building on the upper right, those don't have doors, so we're not going to be able to really
No.
secure those.
No, with staff, we talked about potentially getting fencing or something to put up over that so people can't get inside. But I'm still waiting to hear back from staff on what they recommend.
There is a fence around that entire property, is there not?
There is, and that has been closed as of last week, but it's really easy to hop that fence.
Is it two different things? I don't believe the residential property does have a complete fence around it. And
No, it
that-
does
That
not.
garage in the upper left portion of the picture, that also does not have a garage door and
No.
is open for access.
Yes. And the residential building is not locked.
Well, and we've reached out to Public Works about some of this stuff, so we're working as fast as we can, and I know you're trying to find a financially, comfortable resolution to securing this property. What about, was there any, regarding code enforcement, was there anything in terms of cleanup that they required of us? Because I'm concerned about spending too much money cleaning it up if in a few months it's going to all get torn down anyhow.
Yeah, there would be code violations for the trash on site, but right now, really what we're addressing is the pressing public safety issue.
Right.
So there would have been a code violation for the trash as well.
Well, is that something we also need to address then, or just,
I think that's something that I'll have to look into more.
okay.
These are the main things that we've discussed so far.
Maybe we can talk to code enforcement to
Yeah, and I
cut us
think,
a little slack.
I think the hope was also that there would be some resolution that was in the contract to sell, that the seller would be able to mitigate or mediate, but we haven't heard any response on that yet.
Was there any provisions?
We've been asking the residential attorney on that, who handled that, has been slow to respond, so I'm not aware of the.
Yeah, I don't know what they're responding, well, hopefully we'll find out, because it would be nice if the previous landowner would have not left it in such disarray, but it could be our problem, so.
It really was the tenant, and so it's a little bit more complicated. So it's not that the landowner left it that way. It's
Right.
that
But that
the-
ultimately, they should be responsible. But it depends on what that sale agreement said
That's
they
right.
would do when they moved out, which we're still waiting on the answer. And Mr. Councilman Stovall, I believe, has a connection to Mr. Larry Pierce to be able to ask him different questions, even though he's not paying attention right now.
Okay, well, continue, I just, do what you can in terms of securing it, and we may have to prod our other attorney to get us some kind of response on that, so we can figure out if we are going to be the ones that have to clean it up, so we can prevent any more code violations. All right, that's all I have.
We do have another slide.
Oh, okay, oh, that's right,
Yeah.
yes.
Separate properties, they're all
Yeah,
Peachtree Road properties. But essentially, this is the building on the Vintage property. Our staff, whenever they were doing their monthly maintenance, noticed that there was some graffiti, some beer bottles, and a broken window on the backside of that property. So it's not visible, but it was on the backside, and they noticed it. So they did clean up those beer bottles. They covered the graffiti with paint, and then they did buy supplies to board up that window, which totaled to $74.02. But just wanted to provide that update so everybody was in the loop.
That's not visible from the street, is it?
It's not, no.
No. Well, we've secured it. We definitely appreciate it's a bargain basement price for that repair and cleanup, and we appreciate that. So, unfortunately, I don't think that property is going to be moving anytime soon, so we just have to keep an eye on it and make sure that nobody else moves into it in the time being. So that's it for the property updates. Move down to public comments. Any comments from the public? I think they're all busy playing Tetris. Do we have executive session? Dan or Danny, any reason to step aside? All right.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn, a second.
Second?
All those in favor? And we are adjourned.